Well, 2020 has certainly been a year that many people would love to forget, but when it comes to ASX investing and investing in stocks overall, many people have had a fantastic year. On the flip side to that, there has been a lot of beginner investors come to the market and get absolutely in pump and dump small cap stocks. They're all chasing those gains, maybe because they can't get to the casinos and they're trying to do it online, who knows. So what I want to do in today's video is learn from our experiences using technical analysis so that we can figure out when it is a better time to enter the market and maybe when it's best just to wait it out. Now, quickly before we get started, it is not financial advice. It's for education and entertainment purposes only. The timestamps are in the description, so you can click through to any part in the video at your discretion. At any point throughout the video, if you find some value from it, be sure to hit the like button down below. It goes a long way to helping me out and the channel get through the YouTube algorithm. Now, this is just my opinion, of course. If you are working in the industry or you're an experienced investor or you've got some extra knowledge, be sure to leave it in the comment section down below. It goes a long way to also helping out the community here. The structure for today's video is going to be nice and simple so everyone can follow along. We're going to start with some news and market sentiment, then cut across to the chart analysis using technical analysis, and then finally I'll give you my opinion of what I think is going to happen with the stock. Let's move across and nerd it up in the charts. Now, before we take a deep dive into just one stock today, I want to take a closer look at the most commonly traded Australian shares based on volume. Now, this is on the CommSec website, and we're going to look at the top 20 traded Australian shares. The reason being is a lot of these stocks have come up in beginner and newbie type ASX stock groups. And from what I've seen in the comments section from you guys watching is that you've had your ass handed to you. Sure, some people have come out with a profit, but unfortunately, there's been a lot of people that have been caught out by the trap of getting into these stocks based on a lot of FOMO. Some of the examples we can see are BrainChip, Zip, most recently PLL, Piedmont Lithium. And if we go down the list, we can see a couple more like Novonix and 3DP, which hasn't had its absolute dump yet, but I think there's one coming, and that's what I want to talk about in today's video. Regardless of how good we think these companies are going to turn out in the next 5 to 10 years, I think it's important to understand the chart in the immediate term, like right now. So let's start at tradingview.com, type in 3DP, and we've got POINTERRA Limited here, sitting at 52.5 cents before the market open on Monday. Now, this home screen shows you a few little things like technicals, financials, and some news if we scroll right down. And the news really shows up in the chart, and I'm going to get to that in a second. But first, let's just have a quick look at these news articles. They range back to late October in 2018. There's stuff in 2019, but the main one I want to have a quick look at is this stuff in late 2018. All right, onto the next site, and this is Crunchbase. This tells us the valuation at IPO of 8 million. These are stats that I think are important to keep in mind moving forward, just so that we know how much people have invested or at the price they invested and what they stand to make in profits now at these pumped up prices. IPO share price 3 cents, IPO date July 12th, 2016, and they said money raised at the IPO was 5 million. Next one is a bit of news, and this also states the news that's just come out from July, so it's a few months old now, but you'll see that in the chart as well, where Bevan Slattery invests 2.5 million, mapping startup POINTERRA, and its share price skyrocketed. Next thing I want to have a look at is what does 3DP actually do, just at a very high level, and essentially they do 3D imaging. These are just some of the images I pulled up on Google. And you can see there that they can do it in heat and all this sort of stuff as well. And then they get compared to near map. So I think that's where a lot of the FOMO also begins from. People are looking at the valuation of other companies in the space, and then they just expect POINTERRA should reach that from the get-go. So with that in mind, let's have a quick look at the charts now. So at first, this might look a little bit scary if you are new to charting. Let's take off all of the lines and just look at the bars, and I'll even take off the volume for now. This is what we come to and we see first up when we put in 3DP on the ASX. Now we know that the company started somewhere around July of 2016. So any of this data behind us has got nothing to do with 3DP. So we're just going to look at the data from July onwards and use that to determine is now a good time to be buying into what potentially may be a good company. So let's bring on all of the data that I had sitting here. Now, these are my notes that I've gone through just to analyze the stock itself. starting with support and resistance, S&R on trend lines, S&R on Fibonacci's, S&R horizontal pricing, and then also the high. So what I'm using is the Fib tool. You can find that on the side here, click across, and there it is. I've starred them because it's something that I use regularly. Now that's just connected from the bottom, that's the absolute low, to the absolute top of this stock. Now I'll move my face out of the way a little bit, and if you use the log scale, it's easier to see that low, which is coming in at 1.5 cents. When we do that, we split up the pricing of the market. So basically some support and resistance levels. And what we're currently seeing, if I take that off so you can see a little bit better, is the 61.8%. These are very important Fib numbers. I've got a video on this on the channel called Beginner Swing Trading. I'll leave a link to it in the description and probably in a card way above at the top of the video. Now, you'll be able to learn about this in more detail, but we'll just run through it so that we can move on to the other points to do with this stock. 50% is also a good level to find some support at, and the 38%. So that's around 26 cents. So the next thing that I'm looking at here is the trend line. Now, I've got a trend line here just tacked to the bottom of these areas. How I've found those is just connecting a low to a low, not just any low, but a swing low. Now, if I put that on one of these other swing lows, it starts to widen the area that I would consider a trend line, but I found these to be working, and that's the area that I like the look of. So pretty much if this breaks down below this trend line, then I think we will start to find our way lower. That's why I'm using that trend line there. So the next thing I'm using is the measuring tool on the side. From the low in March, which was the COVID crash, right to the top, 4,400%. So if you were lucky enough to be buying this thing when the rest of the world felt like it was about to fall down and crumble and there was just no point in investing at all, you'd find yourself up 4,400% if you sold the absolute top. We know that is not possible for the vast majority of people. I take these into consideration because this can dramatically affect where the price ends up next. If I've made that much profit, I want to get out of the market. I'm not interested to try and make that again. But a lot of newbies are coming into the market in these times, in these 40 cents, and you're buying the dirty bags of the guys who were buying up through this area. That's why it doesn't matter whether the company is good long term, you could be getting absolutely crapped on at this point. The next thing I got on here is volume. So let's bring the volume back, and we can see that it is decreasing comparatively speaking to the breakout area. This area was the breakout from these levels before we knew about this news here from slattery buying. Basically, you can see the volume just dropping off, and this last one was the most major volume, and that was on a massive reversal day. Volume is decreasing on the ups, and it's still very active comparatively speaking, but I think that it might be a distribution area where the guys who had bought in earlier are just starting to play the market, get themselves out slowly because they have a lot of stock and you just can't sell it all at once. They have to play a very different game to the retail investors like you and I. Moving down on the other notes I've got here, I haven't seen the confirmation of a change in trend, but it's not looking good for it because of this reversal bar here, and that's another note that I've got on the list as a pattern. Key reversal bar on the weekly, drop the chart down to a daily just by pressing 1D, hit enter, and basically there's another reversal. That's a 2-day reversal pattern. What I'm trying to do here is to build a case to see if this market has a potential to increase, so a bullish case, or it has a potential to decrease, a bearish case. Once I've got that noted, then that basically tells me, is this going to go up or down? The higher probability of this actually going up or down. Last things I want to have a look at is the news. So in October 2019, there was a bit of news, and you can see it on the chart right here. Pumped on news, and for the next couple of years it just did nothing. So take that into consideration as well. News can pump the market and then fall for a long period of time, and quite a hefty drop as well. There was the drop from early 2018 into the lows of early this year, and that was about an 87% drop. So if we were to look at another 87% drop from the high, that brings us pretty well down to these low areas of around 10 cents. I'm not saying it's going to get there straight away, but the probability of that happening is pretty high, especially in a smaller cap stock. So it's time for my opinion, and I want to explain this and relate it to a lot of those other stocks that I mentioned earlier in the video where they have seen a big pump and dump. Basically, this thing could continue up a lot higher. We know markets have the potential to do that, and we just don't think it's possible. So what I would look at here is entering on a break of these swings, but it has to close above these levels of 55 cents because that's the last swing. And I would keep a tight stop. That's for the bull case if it's going north. If you wanted to play it a little bit more safe, then I would definitely wait for a close above these highs, but I know that's a long way above. That's above 67 cents. So it's a long way from where we are now. To the downside, I probably wouldn't short this if I was new at investing because you can really get your ass handed to you if you don't know what you're doing. If I was looking for a long-term investment, I would then wait for support and resistance levels. And we can see those levels forming at around the 43, 42 cents, but I even think that's far too high. We know in the past that this market has potential to drop around 80%. I probably wouldn't wait that long if I really love this stock, but you could eventually see this in weeks to come where this should land, and you'll start to see support and resistance play out as the stock drops. Now that's my deep dive technical analysis on 3DP on the ASX. You can see that it's similar to a lot of the stocks we've seen in the past, which have absolutely destroyed a lot of new investors like BrainChip and Novonix of late. The fundamentals in the future might say it's a great company, but I would just be very wary and learn from the mistakes of the past, learn from the mistakes of others before jumping into a stock based purely on the fundamentals. Now, if you found any value in the video, be sure to like it up down below. It helps me and the channel out a lot, reaching a lot more people so they can hopefully avoid getting their ass handed to them based on a lot of fundamentals we see online and just getting sucked into the FOMO. You can stay in touch with me on YouTube through the communities page and also my Instagram down below. I'm also working on a beginner's investment Discord, so stay tuned for that. Be sure to subscribe down below so you get notified when that comes out, and I'll make some more videos on that in the future. A last shout out to the guys watching it live on the premiere in the chat box. Go ahead now, hit your likes, and I'll catch you guys at the next video. Thanks again for joining me, and until next time, have more fun to get more done.